Hey everybody, it's just Beast. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Scottyallenday. How could animals be a challenge to work for? What jobs have I had that I worked with animals? And what was the best exotic animal job that I worked at? So, today I'm talking about a small stop that I did during my roadie tours and my carnival tours and that sort of thing. I had about 2 months that I needed to fill with work. And, well, I ended up taking 3 different jobs. Well, one of them I was doing some rigging work and doing some sound work, and they said, well, you want to work for the animal crew, and we got about 5 stops. And according to my itinerary, the 5th stop, I just had to basically get a hotel room for 2 days, and then the concert that I was going to rig next was coming into that same Coliseum. So I was working for Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey at that time, and I worked with the animal crew. The animal crew took care of the tigers, they took care of the elephants, the horses, camels, llamas, goats, whatever they had for that particular act. Now, what was challenging about that was when they brought the tigers down. The tigers were brought down by the transportation crew. The tigers and the lions had absolutely nothing to do with the animal crew. The animal crew took care of the elephants and the zebras and all the other, I guess, non-violent animals, if you want to say that. The tigers were dealt with the transportation crew, because transportation crew, you had to use the tractors to get them down, and the cages that you had to lock together to go into the lion tamer's ring, you had to do it in a certain way, because your hands, when you pushed the cages, you were only allowed the palm of your hand. No fingers, no nothing, the palm of your hand to push the cages. The reason is they don't want your fingers to go in, because if your fingers go in, you can end up getting bit off by a tiger. Tiger bites your fingers off. It's the end of the show for the tiger, and it's the end of the road for the tiger, because the tiger has to be put down. Because the thing is when all the tigers on that are fed basically rancid horse meat. Rancid horse meat has no human style sense on it, and it kind of is a repellent for the lion tamer inside of the ring. And because of the fact that it doesn't eat any human scented style foods, because when we eat beef, or we eat pork, or we eat chicken, the scents from those type of meats are part of our scent. So it attracts the tigers know it's just food, and then that's why they attack. So I worked for that. The elephants, if they were constipated, you had to put gloves on, you had to reach in, you had to pull the doo-doo out so they could be able to doo-doo. The horses, the same way. And it was fun. I mean, you stack the trains up, and I'll do a video on a full video on my circus experience, because I did 2 of them in another video. So another one that I had was, this was back in '97, and I worked for Joe Hendrick's Exotic Animal Farm. This was a really interesting one, because I actually got to work hands-on and train some of the animals and work with some of the animals. We had pygmy goats. There was one goat that I ended up parading around with the leash. The name of the goat was 99. Don't ask me why it was 99, but it was 99. And everybody liked calling it 99. But how it got the name 99, we have no clue. I have no clue. So, basically, you'd parade them around and then, you know, it would be buddies. He was my buddy, and, you know, he'd nibble on shirts and headbutt little kids, and it was a really good pygmy goat. Another one that I worked with was Claudia the camel. We did camel rides. We had a big saddle on the top. People would walk up, and then we'd lead the camel around on a big track. The track had a bunch of sawdust on, so to protect the soft paw of the camel. The camel's hooves are soft, and if you walk them around on pavement, it would hurt. One of the things about, I'm using my notes here, one of the scary parts about working with a camel is a camel can sense fear. And if you're afraid of it and you don't show it as, let's say, for example, that if you've ever watched a marine TV show like Gomer Pyle USMC, you have Sergeant Carter, that's the drill sergeant, and you have Gomer Pyle, that's the goofy marine. Now, if I were like a Gomer Pyle to a camel, the camel will do everything it can to crush me. It would push me into the stands, it would push me into the guardrails, it would do everything it can, or it would even try and lay down on you. Because, well, the thing is, it's still trying to show a show of force. It's trying to show you who's boss. And that's the same for all camels. It's either a two-hump camel or a dromedary camel. And if you don't show it who's boss, it will do what it can to be able to crush you. An elephant is the same way. So basically, you have to show assertiveness. You have to use sharp, aggressive style tones in order for the camel to understand that you are going to lead it, and it follows your orders. The last place that I worked at was Bubba's Exotic Animal Buddies. That was a fun one, and that was the one that, when I first started off and they called me up and I was done with one show and I got a month in between, and they said, well, we're going to ship you off to Bubba's Exotic Animal Buddies because you're going to meet up with WWE, because evidently I think it was like Jake the Snake's python wasn't feeling well, and they needed a temporary so that Jake the Snake would be able to use it in his wrestling, and his main snake needed a chance for rest because the snake was distressed. So they said, well, why don't you go with Bubba's Exotic Animal Buddies and tour with him. Once he's done with the tour, then you can go and work with WWE, because WWE at that, I think they were still WWF at that time. And Jake the Snake was making special appearances at that time. Was he? I think he was making special appearances at certain matches, but otherwise, his python was distressed and, you know, kind of needed a break from the show. So I went to go and work for Bubba's Exotic Animal Buddies, and I showed up to his ranch, and I said, okay, well, I'm here to tour with you. And he said, okay, cool. So go on into the living room, and we'll get you started. So when I went into the living room, and I sat down on the couch, and he had cartoons playing on the TV, and I said, that's just kind of weird for a grown adult sitting there watching cartoons. And I was sitting there, and I was just watching cartoons and waiting for him to come by, and all of a sudden I felt something nudge me. I turned my head, and I look, down on the sofa. And what did I see? A crocodilian. I swam in my underpants. I was so scared. And I said, there's a crocodile on the couch. It's going to eat me. What do I do? And Bubba came out and he started laughing his head off. And he walked over and started petting Willie. And, you know, I was so petrified. And then he had black widow spiders, and he had animals that would literally kill you. He had a big old snapping turtle. He had puff adder snakes. He had cottonmouth moccasins. And just about all of these were devenomed. But the crocodilian and the alligator and the crocodile that he had scared the living bejesus out of me. It was possibly the scariest gig I've ever worked. It took me about a week, and then I started becoming comfortable. He took them out, he showed them to me, we sat down, he educated me, and then I started really getting to like it. And then I thought it was cool. He had a skunk that was descented. He had a porcupine that he could show me how to be able to handle. And it was a lot of fun. The porcupine, I got pricked on my thumb. And I had a quill sticking out of my thumb. And that hurt. Because I did something wrong. And the crocodiles and the alligators, we had to help take them out of the water and change the water. And we had to take the snakes out, and we changed the snake cages and feed the crickets and feed snakes to crickets. We had to raise maggots. We had to, it was an experience I would probably never forget. And it's basically plain and simple. I really can't do a full video on that. I walked in the door, I had the experience with Willie. Willie will sit there, and when his favorite cartoon would come up, his jaw would open like it's, oh my God, it's my favorite show. And then after a while, he'd fall asleep. And there was a big giant tortoise that roamed around the living room, roamed around the whole kitchen. I must have tripped over it about 5 different times. And then, well, of course, they had all the different snakes and everything in there. You just basically had to make sure that when you opened the drawer, or when you opened the cabinet, or when you opened even the toilet, you had to make sure that there was nothing in there before you reached in. You had to make sure there was nothing in the toilet before you took a doo-doo. You had to make sure there was nothing in the drain, or you had to make sure you capped the drain before, when you were done with the shower and after it drained, you had to cap it. And then before you took a shower, you had to open the drain and take a flashlight and look down in there and see if there was anything in there. Said sometimes some of these creatures, like the scorpions or the spiders, can get loose. And that really made me feel good. So he put it all on the transporter, and on his big trailer. He had 2 different trailers, and him and his other friend, we'd go to different locations, and they'd set the trailers up, and the trailers combined together and flapped open, and then people could walk through and see all these exotic, very dangerous reptiles. Then eventually I got up to WWE, and well, that was it. That was the experience that I had with exotic animals. I learned how to be able to handle a monkey. I learned how to train one. Even everybody called me a chimpanzee. Everybody called me a bozo, because the thing is, I got along with them so well. But exotic animals are fine. But to keep them yourself and raise them, they require a special diet. We had a muntjac, which was a miniature deer that traveled with Joe Hendricks, and when we got to one specific stop, and we fed it like we were supposed to, we gave it its diet like we were supposed to, and the next morning it was dead. We could not figure out why. So basically, when we have an exotic animal that passes on the road, there is a certain procedure and a certain protocol that you got to follow in order for them to be able to keep the license. So you had to collect the animal. The animal has to be taken somewhere and frozen, so they'd be able to take it back to the lab and analyze it. The bedding that the animal slept on, you needed to take a shoebox with a sample. The last stools that they had, you had to take those. And the water they drank, you had to take a sample of that. And then you had to take a razor blade and scrape the paint for the pen. And the feed dishes we had to put into a plastic bag. And all of this had to go to the lab. And when we got that result back from that muntjac, we found out that the water was contaminated. I said, wait a minute, somebody was up all night. It was a stormy night, and then, you know, we went over to check on it, and it was dead. There was a leak in the tent. The rainwater went over, and it was a form of acid rain that was poisonous to that muntjac, because we were down south, and the muntjac was normally up north or in a different environment that doesn't have that particular type of toxin. So from that day forward, they never brought another muntjac into another. They lost their license for that exotic animal. They were able to keep on traveling, but they lost their license to take care of that particular animal. So that's my story about working with exotic animals. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more stories like this, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss another video. Till next time, keep on rocking.